Hey, just Mark here. All right, so today I'm taking a little bit of a walk through my favorite park, Fish Creek Park here. And I'd actually today would like to discuss just life in general. So if you looked at the thumbnail and you look at the picture I'm about to show here, that was me 5 years ago at the age of 42, one day after I had a quadruple bypass open heart surgery. Now you would think at that point I would change a lot of things in my life, and I did. I honestly did for about a good 7 or 8 months. And I recovered. I went from, beginning to end, and I took little steps along the way. Sorry, I kind of have to watch where I'm going on this path because there's muck and mud everywhere. And then after that, I allowed life to do what I normally do. I let things get in the way. Stop prioritizing myself. And I became someone who settled again and didn't focus on myself or my own needs. So today I kind of want to share some things I've learned in my about 40 years of life, well, 40, almost 50 years of life now, that are important and what has shaped me today as a person. So I'm just going to find a quick place to sit and let's talk. As I was kind of mentioning, when I look at that photo, I think of someone who continued to settle and fall into old habits. Someone who didn't follow advice, after he became comfortable again. So in life, when we become comfortable, we don't challenge ourselves and we don't push and we don't create new situations or do things to improve our lives. We just settle. And I did that for way too long at various stages in my life. And so today I want to think about one thing that I would tell, well, not one, maybe a couple things I'd tell my 18-year-old self. And that would be, number one, never give up on your own dreams and don't put others' dreams ahead of yours. I know that in the past I did this many times. I remember once with someone I was with, I put a trip I wanted to take ahead of one they wanted to. Now it was both for charity, which was great. But we were also both going from the same fundraising group. So that person went on the trip, had an amazing experience. Fast forward 24, 25 years later, I've never done that trip. And another thing I would kind of tell myself is never give up. Just keep going. There's challenges we all face in life. And I faced so many, whether it was my mom having a stroke when I was 18 and having to adapt to a life where I still had finished high school, find a place to live, all on making a job that was $4.90 an hour. I was working at McDonald's at the time in a place called Easy Street that was like an arcade, like a Chuck E. Cheese, Bullwinkles for Americans. And I had to push. And there are times I did give up and I just settled, and that was tough. That was tough because I wish I could go and give that 18-year-old Mark a bit of a hug and tell him everything's going to be all right. Because eventually it is. And some of the experiences I've had in life have been absolutely wonderful, and I don't regret many of them. There are a few things in life I do regret, but lately, I know I've been thinking more about life, my own mortality. Last year I had 2 friends who passed away from cancer. I've got a very close family member right now who is fighting it and fighting hard, and they're younger than me. And I sit there and think, I'm lucky. I've made it to this age. I mean, technically, I've been dead twice in my life. Once after a heart attack and once going through open heart surgery because they quite literally stop your heart. And I do question sometimes why I'm still around. Why am I still here? Why am I still walking above ground? And that's sometimes a hard thing to deal with because you do have a bit of survivor guilt when you see that other people haven't made it, even people with heart disease like myself. So some things I've learned over my 40 years, I think one of the most important things is it's not matter what you do, it's who you are. So if you can live your life with integrity, being positive, giving your best into the world, treating other people as you expect to be treated yourself, that's super important, because not everybody's going to treat you the way you want to be treated, but that doesn't mean you need to be a jerk too. I've encountered many people who have tried to make parts of my life miserable, and I either took myself from the situation or I just decided not to retort back in the same manner they were doing for me. I try to live my life with integrity. I try to put good out into the world and help other people as much as I can. I mean, for years I was a volunteer photographer for a children's foundation. I do work like dodgeball tournaments and stuff, and I donate to the Alberta Children's Hospital. Same thing with the humane societies here locally, especially with me having a dog now. But we can all have jobs. We can all do different things. And yes, actions do mean something, but who you are is way more important than what you do. Your job and certain things like that don't define who you are. Find your gift and give it out into the world. I know one of my gifts is being able to connect with people quite easily on a personal level. And sometimes that is a great benefit. And sometimes that puts me in situations that I have to pull back from a bit. But I never stop trying to give out into the world as much as I can. Over the last 40 years, I haven't always chosen, how to spend my time wisely. And that's another important thing, is choose how you spend your time. Are you spending it with, in negative situations? Are you, staying at jobs you don't like or you're miserable at? I mean, gosh, I can count on two hands at least jobs I stayed at because it was a paycheck and I had no confidence to make changes and really go for my goals. I always put that first. So, and then speaking of jobs, I mean, the one thing I've definitely learned in my life is at the end of the day, you don't matter. Jobs will always say, oh, you're like family and, we're all important. We got to stick together, work together. But man, I've had so many jobs that the second things change, you're gone. You get laid off, you get let go. And I remember one job where I was a human resources person, and I had to lay off about 40 workers. And I remember taking the next day off work after because I was so strained and so stressed, because not even a few months ago we were telling these people, you're important, you're valued, you're there, and fast forward 10 months later, I was let go from the same place. So know your value and know that, in places of employment, you can be gone in 2 seconds. And that's why a lot of people job hop and move job to job to find different places. In our lives, we all want acceptance, and that's a part of having a job too. We want to be accepted somewhere. We want to be praised and have our goals met and grow, and that's important. Having that acceptance into wherever you are in your life, whether it's relationships, and I know that's something that I've always craved in my life. I've wanted to be accepted and be someone's number one priority in a relationship. And I can honestly say I've never felt like someone's number one priority. Either they were distracted by, other men, or I always felt like I was competing, or I felt like there was something lacking, or I had to compromise too much to get that acceptance I was searching for, which is why now I enjoy being single, because I like myself and I accept who I am, all the flaws and everything, and that's a part of even validating yourself as a human being. Who are you? What do you have to learn? We all seek out things that are going to make us feel good, or we try to anyway. And when we don't feel good, we let ourselves get down and beat up and frustrated. And I think as people, we just got to keep giving out to the world what we hope to get back. And that also kind of leads to the thing of give without expectation. I've done many things privately that I've never shared in my life, on social media or anything, that nobody would have a clue that I would have done. And that's giving out or helping people or doing things where I didn't want a reward. I didn't want the acknowledgement. I didn't want to the world to know what I did, because that doesn't matter. What mattered is what I did in that moment. And it made me feel good. It made other people feel good. It helped other people, and yeah, I always do my best to give without expectation. Now, there are times when I do give and I have a little expectation, but I'd say 95% of the time I don't. I just want to live life and make people happy and make myself happy and give more to the world what I want, especially now with the world in so much pain. I've talked about relationships a few times here, and I think one of the most important lessons I can tell anybody as you get older is know when to leave certain relationships. And I'm not talking just about the romantic kind. I'm talking friendships. I'm talking even getting rid of some acquaintances, relationships at work. Because if they are no longer making you feel positive, or they're no longer, I don't want to say benefiting you, but if there's no mutual benefit in a relationship, then why are you in it? You know, I've had tons of friends and acquaintances and people I know who have utilized me for a certain level of time and then tossed me to the curb. And in many of those instances, I should have stepped away earlier, but I was trying to help. You know, in my romantic relationships, you know, I remember in one I was competing all the time for the attention of other men, even though we were together. And I felt so down about myself and didn't feel good. And I remember thinking, I need to leave. And I hung on to that relationship probably for another 1.5 years before it ended. I remember in another relationship, someone had said to my girl at the time, I want to find someone like Mark. He's your average looking guy, but he's really nice and he treats you well. Now, I could have focused on the whole, he's a nice guy, he treats you well. I focused on the, he's an average looking guy. You know what? To someone, I am fucking hot. And that's okay. But even then, that relationship in itself, like, there was always competition with other men, always something that would draw that attention, and I never felt valued, and I just, when I think about those, I think I should have left at many points. There's points, if they're in a relationship, where I was stressed all the time, I felt on edge all the time, and that's no way to be in a relationship. If you're always stressed and on edge, whether it's caused by your significant other or situations around you, it's not worth it. It's not worth to be stressed out all the time. And it's time to move on. Friendships, I am an extrovert. I know a lot of people, and I'm not ashamed to say that. However, I can probably count on one hand how many people I consider true friends. And some of them aren't even in my city, and I don't even see them regularly. And I've cultivated that because especially in the last 1.5 years, have realized the importance of really good friends. When I've gone through rough patches, I know who's been there for me, and sometimes there's been people who I thought would be there and weren't. So, know to get out of relationships and all that when you feel they're not valued anymore. And I think what social media has done is it's allowed us to keep people in our lives longer than they were meant to be. Before social media, if you lost contact with somebody or you cut somebody off, there was no social media for someone to look at you. And I think that kind of went by the wayside. And I think people are only meant to be in your life for a certain amount of time in certain situations. Now, going back to mortality and health, I think having a heart attack, surviving cardiac arrest, going through open heart surgery has taught me that you need to take care of yourself, not just physically, but up here too. When I was recovering from my heart surgery, I focused a lot on the physical, and same thing after I had my heart attack in 2013. So they're about, 8 years apart. But I stopped taking care of this. I didn't know what to do until after the fact. And I remember breaking down, I want to say in 2022 or 2021, because I hadn't taken care of my brain after my heart surgery. And it messes with you a little bit. But it is important to take time for yourself. Days like today, here I am out in this park. Someone's got a, campfire going on over there, cooking some food. So I can smell that, and it's really great. Taking Trixie to the dog park, and watching her play and have fun, amazing as well. So it's about taking care of yourself physically, mentally. Do what you got to do. I'm not going to tell you to go to the gym. Go for walks. Go and do things that you enjoy for your mental health, whether it's playing video games or reading books or whichever. It's just kind of crazy. So I kind of want to end by this. You know, I've been a little bit all over the place on this one, but follow your dreams. Do what you need to do for you. Because if you stop doing it, especially if you're younger watching this, you're going to get to my age and realize you missed out on a lot of things that you could have done, should have done way back when you were younger and had more energy. You know, and now I'm taking chances. I'm taking more chances now than I have in years. You know, here I'm doing a YouTube channel. You know, I'm out in public many times trying to, you know, play with all my cameras and stuff. And I'm also taking a chance in terms of getting myself out a little bit more bit by bit, you know, which is something I haven't done in a while. But the truth is, learn, educate yourself, grow, do something. Don't just sit there. So if you've been watching this and you've gained anything from it, please comment down below, like, subscribe, tell me your thoughts. I mean, there's so much more I could talk about life, but I don't want to make this video longer than it is. It's already like 14 minutes or something silly. And so I think I need to break some of these down into smaller videos for myself. But yeah, so don't waste your life. Make something of it because you're worth it. I'm worth it. I'm realizing that now. I am worth it. You are worth it. Go for it. Anyways, cheers. I'll see you on the next one.